Maria Archila was one of the two women in that confrontation with Senator Flake over Kavanaugh's Supreme Court nomination. She is an activist and co-executive director of the Center for Popular Democracy, a liberal advocacy group based in New York City. Maria is with us now. Good morning.
Good morning.
When that elevator door closed with Senator Flake, did you think that history might change?
I did not think that. I thought that the interaction that we had just had touched him, and that it had connected with a seed of perhaps doubt and a sense of responsibility that that I was hoping he would seek in this moment of making such a consequential decision for our country. I had been going to Washington, D.C. for weeks, trying to talk to members of the Senate about my concerns of nominating Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court, because I think that he stands for the rollback of decades of progress for women's rights, for communities of color, for workers, for immigrants.
You were opposed to Brett Kavanaugh even before you heard these allegations of sexual assault.
Absolutely. And I was doing the work of making my voice heard, bringing others to make sure that the decision was informed by the experiences of people who stood to lose so much.
Did you and Maria Gallagher know each other before that day?
We did not know each other.
So you two met that day and
we
you
met
decided?
That morning, just like 15 or 30 minutes before. We met and we had time, and we decided, let's go to visit Senator Flake's office. It was actually Maria's idea. She was there for the first time. She had never talked to an elected official. She had never told her story. I had just told my story publicly few days earlier. I hadn't even told my father.
And she said she hadn't even told her mother.
She hadn't told her mother. We didn't know that about each other, but we went and we stood in front of his door, the office, his office, and right before he stepped out of his office, we found out that we saw the statement that came out that said he was getting ready to vote.
That's what made you so angry.
So when we saw him, we were having all these reactions of how can you do this? We just heard a woman yesterday, Dr. Blasey Ford, pour out her heart and expose herself to so many attacks to protect our country. She's telling her story to protect our country. I stood in front of his office and told my story to protect my children and the country they are growing up in.
But Maria, the prosecutor in the case, Rachel Mitchell, who we've seen, said that this is basically a he said, she said case, and this case is even less than that these stories are very difficult to prove. What do you say about that?
I say to that the reason why there are thousands and thousands of women telling their stories right now and survivors telling their stories right now is because we recognize in Dr. Ford's testimony our own reality, our own experiences. That the reason why we don't tell is because we're not believed. The reason why we don't tell is because we want to protect the people we love from having to hold the pain of perhaps not feeling guilty about not being able to protect us. So you can't. So if you ask me all the details, what was the date of when it happened to me, I couldn't tell you, but I can remember, and I know that experience was mine, and I see that in Dr. Ford.
And that's why you said you didn't want to tell your father, because you didn't want him to hold the pain of not being able to protect you.
That's right.
Let me ask you you wanted Senator Flake to be a hero. Was he?
I think Senator Flake showed that people who have the responsibility of making decisions for our country can actually listen to their conscience and can actually connect on a human level. The reality is that what we were able to do in that elevator was establish human connection. I connected to him because he's a father, I am a mother. This is not just about us today, not just about the politics of this moment. This is about the lives of the people we love so much.
We should say again that Brett Kavanaugh, of course, has denied these allegations. Are you encouraged by an FBI investigation?
I think the investigation is one important step. The country deserves a process that all of us can trust. I think that we have seen Brett Kavanaugh enough. I believe that we need to have people in the Supreme Court who are able to model what it looks like to take responsibility for your own actions and what it looks like to begin the repair process of whatever harm has been caused, and I think he's unable to do that.
All right, Maria Archila, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.